And welcome back to the episode of Geek Centurions, boy Eli.
Me, Joe.
And we're here to talk about the announcement of Switch 2 from Nintendo. And we're not going to go over too much on it, just a little bit of it, but I think the main takeaway for a lot of people is the pricing. This is just a quick talk about what we're going to be, our thoughts on, and probably the reason why it's that high.
Yeah, because earlier this week, I guess by the time of this recording, the Nintendo Switch Direct was Wednesday, so it's like 2 days later. Um, you know, big announcement, right? The next
Mm-hmm.
new Nintendo console, the Switch 2, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and they announced pretty much a lot of the stuff. It comes out in June, which is, I honestly, for me, that was the
That
more
was that was
surprising
that was
part.
that was a surprise.
Like, I assumed they were gonna save Switch 2 for like holiday, like sometime in November.
Like a season that would make sense for a lot of people.
Yeah, like, but in the middle of summer, like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess to be fair, like, I think the thing about when the first Switch came out, that came out in like early April, like around now time,
You're
if I recall
right,
correctly,
dude.
which was honestly a fine way.
Yeah.
Because then, like, later in that year, you would get your heavy hitters, but mainly you had like Legend of Zelda at launch, right?
Yeah.
Um, But here, yeah, they announced the new games, right? A new Mario Kart, obviously, a new Donkey Kong game that's
That was
not Donkey
insane.
Kong Country, which
They also announced the GameCube. I'm gonna call it a collection, but it's the GameCube.
uh, I don't think, like, I call it the Virtual Console,
Yeah.
but that's because of, like, that's the term they would use for like releasing old games on like the 3DS and the Wii U and stuff.
Mhm.
But I'm pretty sure it's like the Nintendo Switch Online, because you need Nintendo Switch Online to access the old uh, games from like
Mhm.
previous generations of Nintendo, right? The NES collection, your SNES, N64, and now Game Boy. Actually, I think Game Boy Advance a while back, and now you're gonna get GameCube games on Nintendo Switch 2, and only on Nintendo Switch 2.
Only on, so the reason for that is because the Nintendo Switch 2. The big thing about it is that it's, and this kind of goes along to why I think the price went up so high. It's Nintendo has always been like the kind of company to make stuff that is not, I wouldn't say cheap, but affordable, right?
Yeah, cause I mean,
Like they're never a high end console or a PC kind of thing. They never really focus on graphics or anything. They were very much like gameplay is the thing.
yeah, I will say, I mean, initially, right during the bit wars between Sega, yeah,
Mm.
obviously that was the competition of graphics,
Mm.
but after the GameCube, which I believe was technically more powerful than the PS2, not doing as well as the PS2, I think Nintendo saw the market of like, we don't want to try to compete with Xbox, coming out as well
Mm.
with these console guys going higher and higher with graphic fidelities. Let's just focus on, like you said, the gameplay
Yeah.
experiences, which is why you got the Wii U, which is like motion, all that
The
stuff.
Wii, not the Wii U.
I'm sorry, the Wii. I mean,
Mm.
technically the Wii U had that too,
Yeah, that's true.
but my point being, the Wii big explosion, right? It had such innovations with its controls and all that stuff.
But it was never really too high in graphics wise,
No, it was the weakest out of all the 7th gen consoles.
and it's still technically the weakest out of the ones that we have right now.
Yeah, no, obviously, like it doesn't do it. I don't think it even did like 720.
No, it didn't. No,
Yeah.
I want to say that right now it's 1080p at least.
No, no,
No,
I
no,
mean
no,
like
no, no, no,
the
no.
Wii.
The Wii, yes.
Yeah, the Wii.
Switch, I think it is 1020, 1080.
Yeah, 1080 in TV mode and like 720 when you're in handheld.
Yeah.
For certain games, other games like I say probably Doom or like the higher graphic ones, they lower it down to make it run well, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like yeah. The main thing with Nintendo Switch 2 is that you can play in 4K on TV mode. I think
Mhm.
with some games,
Yeah.
if I recall correctly. I think Metroid Prime 4 being
Mhm.
one of them.
Also like a 60 frames per second. I think was it off or on deck?
No, I think it does target 60 frames a second on
Yeah.
deck. If I recall correctly, they're showing it. Because the game comes out on regular Switch as well,
Yeah.
the first Switch, and they showed that I think in TV dock mode
Mhm.
you can choose quality or performance
Yes, that's what it was.
for Metroid Prime 4, and I think you're probably gonna get that same option for other games. Like how a lot of the modern consoles do that as well.
Mhm.
Um, And I believe, if I recall correctly from the Nintendo Direct, you could do 4K 60 frames in TV dock or like 1080 120 frames in TV dock for Metroid Prime 4. Which I'm gonna be honest, that's really cool.
That is really cool.
I'm finally glad there's a console. Now, granted, I'm not saying that Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5 or PS5 Pro are able to do 4K and 60, but it's like it's a bit shocking for a Nintendo console to be able to do that. You know, like I mean, it makes sense, right? The dock, which in Nintendo Switch, the first one, you know, it's just a piece of plastic that you can connect stuff into. With the Nintendo Switch 2, the dock has its own little micro, like mini cooling fan to help, you know, take care of the heating process and all that stuff, which is, you know, that's a good idea, especially if you're going to be aiming for higher graphic fidelities and stuff.
Yeah.
From like, if anything, I'll say this, it seems like a lot of the specs that people are saying about Nintendo Switch 2 is that it's basically kind of like of the same power level of like a base PS4 or Xbox One, right?
Yeah.
So that sort of power.
Well, again, they were never about that.
Yeah, because the Nintendo Switch was basically just had the same power as like a PS3 or Xbox 360, which is generation before, but you add the context of it is both a regular means of console that you just sit and plug into the TV, but also a handheld console that you can just take anywhere you go.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like, oh, all right, that makes, you know, obviously the whole logic.
Hence why it was so cheaper.
Yes, hence why it's cheaper, and also, I mean, yeah, it definitely garnered a lot of, you know.
But that line brings us to like the big issue about it is the pricing. I wasn't surprised when it became such a high price tag.
You want to say what the price is?
It should be 450 base, and there is a bundle for it from what I saw that included Mario Kart
Tour.
that made it $500, which is like the baseline for a PS5 and Xbox.
Yeah, which, you know, and honestly, I remember talking to some of my coworkers.
Yeah.
Because you know, that's a big thing with my coworkers with Nintendo games or whatever. And yeah, you know, it was like, now granted, I was probably of the belief that if rumors of true were like this was going to be a more beefed up Nintendo Switch in terms of console things, and just given like the state of how a lot of things have gotten increased in prices, whether just inflation or whatever economic stuff I don't understand is happening around the world.
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, if this thing potentially tries to hit 4K maybe, then I could see it being like 400, maybe 450 at the highest. And, you know, lo and behold, it's 450 at base. And I'm just like, all right, I kind of had it right, but, you know.
You were, Nintendo was always the one that was like, yeah, your kid isn't going to be playing a PlayStation 5 anytime soon, but you can give him a Switch.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that we will. I feel like there'll definitely be cheaper options as they come along. I mean, obviously, if you look at the Nintendo Switch itself, I mean, wasn't it like 350 when it came out base?
I don't recall. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but it was like in that 300 range though.
Yeah.
While the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 were in that 450, 500 range. Last time I checked.
You also need to remember that again, that for Nintendo, their whole thing was, we are affordable. We are not going to be making too much stuff that will like be running at like a crazy speed. And the whole point of Soldier 2 is like, no, we're actually doing it now. Their dock has like a cooling system now.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, so it doesn't overheat.
Yeah.
That's when the whole thing about with the PS5, right, is that they came out with like a cooling system, but it's like not as cooling as most people would want it to be.
Well, I mean, yeah, but obviously, you know, this is the one that's starting to push for a bit more power. Obviously, because the thing is, I think part of it is just the Nintendo Switch as a concept of, you know, a handheld that also is a home console that you can take anywhere. You know, like, it's a really good concept, and I know people were probably wondering, like, how are they going to make another, what console are they going to make next? this next time up, like what's it gonna be? Like what's gonna be the next console for Nintendo? And it's like, obviously, it's just that's why it's the Switch 2,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which I always find funny that people will kind of in the midst of all these big prices, and I think we'll talk about the bigger thing when it comes to price, because I think
Yeah.
the console itself, pricing wise, yes, it is a bit higher than what I think a lot of people, especially Nintendo fans, are used to. But I think most people can understand it, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
It's
okay,
supposed to be better.
yeah, it's a much more graphically better console than the original Switch. Therefore, you know,
Well, I mean, like, there's games that are gonna be specific only to Switch too. Like the big like Street Fighter Six. Like, you ever bring Street Fighter Six to Switch? Only for Switch two,
that is true. Yeah,
which makes sense for that kind of game.
yeah, and I was gonna say because that it has the graphical fidelity and like hardware to run those games,
Mm-hmm.
right? Cyberpunk 2077 coming to Nintendo Switch 2 and only Nintendo Switch 2 with the Phantom Liberty expansion pack, which I had to look up wasn't even included for base PS4 or Xbox One because the remember Cyberpunk 2077 on base PS4 and Xbox One ran like crap. It was awful. You had to have either a PS4 Pro or the Xbox One X to even run it good on those.
Series X too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because like you had to have those next generation consoles to run Cyberpunk well, or a beef up PC.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, some of those PCs weren't doing it that well. Remember all that?
Oh, I remember that.
Like all that stuff happened at the time. Granted, Cyberpunk nowadays is in a better state, and you can do that. But the fact that you can run that game successfully on a Nintendo Switch 2 just shows the amount of ingenuity and innovation that they have to put into that game.
Exactly. No. Yeah. That's kind of the thing. With everything that's worked, I mean, games are being much more like fidelity wise, like a lot of higher end games. I'll say that, like AAA studios, AA maybe.
Yeah,
Like,
they definitely like to push the graphical fidelity,
yeah,
ray tracing, and all that
yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah. And then you have games that are like indie games, like say Hades, which is like aren't that graphically crazy, but yeah, no, those those can run on Switch easy, especially now on Switch too.
Mm.
Um, but obviously that comes into the question like sort of kind of things are going really haywire now is the price of a game.
Yeah, which the big one I believe was
Mario Kart.
Mario Kart World. The new Mario Kart game, which and not to talk too much about it, but it does look nice. 24 players. You have this little.
You're essentially like driving across country.
Yeah, it's a nice concept. If anything, I'm just like, thank God it's a new Mario Kart game. I'm
And
tired.
not
I'm not. I'm tired. Listen, I love Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, right?
Yeah.
It's their highest selling game on Nintendo Switch for obvious reasons. It's Mario Kart. People love Mario Kart. But it's just like, bro, can we just get Mario Kart 9 or something?
It's so funny because the eight's supposed to signify also infinity on that, so it's like
Yeah, because of the new
Yeah.
system they added. And granted, remember, Mario Kart 8 originally came out on the Wii U.
that's how long it's been.
Yeah,
We
that's
def-
how long.
we def-
That's
we
how
def-
long people have been playing the same, more or less, version of Mario Kart. Yes, I understand they released new
Updates and also
updates over the years for it, but it's just like it's
son of a bitch.
son of a bitch. It's the same game.
But the thing is, it's that price now.
Yeah, because nowadays, now granted, I think Nintendo's done a pretty solid job of like pricing out some of their games. Granted, they've also the main thing is they've joined in on the games being $70, but I believe it was only for their first party titles, right? Like Tears of the Kingdom was $70 on release, if I recall correctly. Um, so yeah, from what I understand, um, Mario Kart, Mario Kart World is going to be $80 digital.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not only $10 more than than like I guess original physical copy stuff, but just that's a lot for Mario Kart. I know there's rumors of like, what does that mean for the physical version? Is it
Oh
going to
no,
be $90?
I'm pretty sure they confirmed it is 90.
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I believe that's probably for like other countries,
Yeah.
like say in Europe with the euro and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty like
Yeah, I'm double checking.
Yeah, because the thing is that because you know, if it is 90 just for physical, I mean, like realistically, that's just a bit. It's a bit much for a Mario Kart game. Again, not to say that people won't buy it. People will buy Mario Kart. It's just for
Mm-hmm.
$90, that's the steep price to pay for a game like that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, this is why you mentioned earlier about the bundle, right? That comes with Mario Kart being $500 basically in U.S. Money. You're basically just saving. That's like your best option if you wanted to play like Mario Kart, which I mean, most people would like to do that. You're saving either like $30, right, for a um, digital copy, or
Yeah, it
like
doesn't say if they'll be like 90 or anything like that.
yeah, it's not yeah, that's what I thought. It's not confirmed $90 for the U.S. I believe that might be some pricing for like other countries outside the U.S. But as of now, I mean that's just
Yeah.
what it is, digital, and that's it's like you said, like it's causing a lot of stir. I mean, hell, you know, if you've been around the new gaming news as of late, right? Like the real big issue coming up is GTA 6 coming out this year, with a lot of people saying, you know, Rockstar might charge us $100 for that because it's GTA, and it's like,
I don't know, bud. I don't know.
yeah, it's just like, listen, I'll pay $100 for a video game if it's like a special edition that gets me extra DLC here, or maybe a steel box or something.
Art book especially.
Art books, yeah, like just
Statues is wouldn't go up high.
yeah, but those are it feels like those are accurately priced and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Those are the ones where you're like, okay, I'm fine paying maybe $150 for a video game, but it comes with all these extra bits and collectibles and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, cool, I'm cool with that. But you know, for $80 digital for just a Mario Kart game that, I mean, yes, you can play it with friends, and I know the Switch 2 is introducing a new system that allows you to share games. Like if you own a copy of that game, you can essentially rent it out to other friends or whatever for like a week or two, so that way you can all play together. So that is sort of an interesting workaround in theory, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
like, say you and your family for whatever reason has like four Switches, which I mean that seems a little
Really weird.
really weird. If you own four Switches and yet you're concerned about paying too much money for Mario Kart, I feel like you're fine financially. But anyways, main point being, the Nintendo Switch 2 has these new systems that allow that stuff for you to share games and stuff,
Yeah.
which is neat. It's interesting. It's a like I said, yeah, it's an interesting way of doing that. Maybe it's a nice workaround for people who can't afford to play as many games.
Yeah.
But it's at the same time, it's just like, yeah, we are entering a bit of the interesting age in terms of video game pricing for stuff.
Oh, it's about to get worse too.
Um,
Do you
yeah,
want? Do you want to start?
um, yeah, we can also talk about some of the newer things,
This
developments.
this just came out today.
Yeah, as of recording, we had
Oh my god.
if I recall, Nintendo Switch, Nintendo was expecting to, essentially allow pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2. I think the April 9th. It was the
Yeah.
date. And funny enough, if you have a Nintendo Switch, if you have a Nintendo account, excuse me,
Mm.
there's a place where you can just be updated on when those links go out, which I
Yeah.
believe is like their way of trying to stop scalpers. Like you make an account,
Mhm.
they'll send you a link when it's ready to go.
Mhm.
You just have to choose which version of the Nintendo Switch 2, either base or bundle with Mario Tour, right?
Yeah.
Mario Kart. Um, so that's interesting. But anyways, the main point is that Nintendo announced recently, and I think even GameStop, essentially amplify that announcement as well. Of like,
Yeah, because they no nothing against GameStop, but they became basically just pre-order central.
I mean, yeah, but they make money from that, right?
Yeah, they do.
It's like, hey, Nintendo just confirmed that they will be delaying pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 in the U.S. due to the changing dynamics of the of the world economics or whatever. I can't
Yeah.
remember the exact phrasing, but it is
I think if you
definitely.
know, you know.
Yeah, it's if you're living in the U.S., you might have heard of certain I think tariffs going out as of late, which you know politics aside, that's
Yeah, not like however you feel. These are not gonna help out at a long in any way or form. This is gonna be affecting a lot of people. Again, I mean, I feel like most people would know where we stand on this, and I feel like everyone will be in agreement that this kind of sucks.
yeah, because the main thing is that from I think from a lot of people speculating is that Nintendo sort of moved a lot of their production for plants that are going to make the Switch 2
Mm.
into Vietnam, which was hit hard with tariffs. So it's Nintendo is just trying to figure out, okay, are we actually going to release this at 450 in the U.S.
Mm.
or what do we have to do for price changing? Because there's a lot of speculation that the price will go up for Nintendo Switch 2 in the U.S., which, again, like we were saying earlier, that adds a whole wrinkle to things now. Because yeah, the pricing of the console itself, I think most people were fine with. It's the games part that was like,
And now it's gonna head both ways. And
yeah.
when did this tariff stuff start? It was yesterday, wasn't it? At the time of this
As of
report.
recording, yeah, as of time of
Oh
recording yesterday
wow,
was
okay.
when those were
That is
revealed.
a double whammy of news cycle. Jesus, for gamers and everything. Because like that, I mean we knew this. I mean I feel like people who knew this was gonna happen. It
People
was
involved
yeah
are following American politics. Yes.
yeah something like this was gonna happening, and it kind of sucks because like it it's gonna like I said it's gonna affect everyone. Like it doesn't really matter where you fall under this situation. We are all gonna be affected, and it's not gonna be a very fun time. We're all hoping that this doesn't go down any form of way, but this is one of those things where you just can't escape the reality of what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Not to loop it around, but it feels very much of what happened about 5 years ago when
Mhm.
the world had to shut down to a global pandemic, and it's
Mhm.
one of those moments of just like, well, we can't not talk about it because at this point it's permeating the all the stuff that we like to talk about. You know?
It's kind of hard not to.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
just like it's a big elephant in the room that you just have to go like,
There's an elephant in the room.
yeah, like you just have to like, yep, that's a thing that's happening, and we
Yeah, no, it's like we were not planning on doing this. We wanted to talk about the cool stuff that's gonna come out, and then prices came out. I'm like, oh man, it's kind of hard not to talk about that.
yeah, I mean I'm gonna be honest, maybe that's the reason why they planned for a summer release. I don't know. But I will say that it is gonna be interesting to see what goes down because I mean we haven't talked much about it, but obviously there was a backlash to a lot of the prices, mainly
Mm.
the prices for games so far.
Yeah.
Nintendo has been doing their Nintendo Treehouse stuff, where they show off all their games or whatever,
Mhm.
like in-depth lists on the new games, right? On Twitch for the past couple days as of recording, and a lot of the Twitch chat has been spammed of just like bring down the price. That's been a lot of stuff that's been
Mhm.
going on, which
It's
yeah.
yeah.
Now I will say it does mirror, and I have done some research. It does
Mhm.
mirror something that happened with Nintendo as well, with the 3DS, their last handheld before the Switch,
All right.
where it was priced. I don't remember the exact uh, price, but it was definitely priced a bit higher for what was perceived for a handheld console.
Mhm.
Nintendo eventually brought that down because I obviously like they knew that okay, that's maybe we're taking that a little
Yeah.
too far.
Mhm.
Um, so who knows? Obviously, the current world situation going on with these tariffs
It's gonna be a
might
lot harder.
yeah, might make it a bit harder for Nintendo to just bite that bullet.
Mhm.
Because obviously, if you recall correctly, 3DS came out during the Wii U, and Nintendo was already pulling, like, cutting their they took pay stuff cuts. They weren't doing very well financially due to the Wii U. So I think for them it was like, okay, let's lower
Where the
down.
CEO had to like agree to take a pay cut to make sure everyone still had a
Yeah,
job.
yeah. Iwata was like, I'm willing to cut my pay so that way everybody stays employed, kind of thing. Which very admirable of him.
Oh no, yeah, he was a G.
A real G.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah. So I'm not sure if Nintendo is in that same position to do that again,
Mhm.
especially again, like I said, with the ongoing situation economically happening around the world.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's going to be an ongoing issue. I mean, I don't know if we'll talk about it if stuff gets resolved.
Yeah, we want to focus on the positives, and that being for me, that would be in saying that I'm excited for Nintendo Switch 2. I would definitely get it. Especially since they're talking about like GameCube releases, game releases, and one of my favorite games is from the GameCube era, and that being Custom Robo. Please, for the love of all, that's good.
I mean, sure, you can keep praying. Not to say that I
Wow.
don't like Custom Robo. I remember enjoying playing a bit of it when I was younger.
Mhm. The Dragon
Personally,
Gun, so cool.
yeah, personally, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance being playable on like a
Mhm.
modern console, that's pretty cool. Although,
Twilight Princess.
I mean, yeah, if you don't want to play the HD remake, you can play basically the original,
Mhm.
if you want. Pokemon Coliseum and then XD, those are gonna be on there, so that's pretty freaking cool.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Side Story, always wanted those games on my GameCube, never got to get that. It was really annoying,
Yeah.
but you know what? It's pretty cool that I can do that.
Will we get Resident Evil 4 from the GameCube though?
I mean, at this point, maybe.
Yeah, if you're not gonna get the
If you're not
remake.
gonna get remake Resident Evil 4 remake, you can play the original on your GameCube classics or whatever they're
Yeah,
gonna call it.
exactly.
I will say, I think because the other bit that I think people were very vocal about was I think there's like that tech demo that you're gonna have
Yeah.
for Nintendo Switch 2. That is gonna cost you as well. I think $6 is what they said.
Oh man.
Which
Okay.
I mean, people. I mean, here's the thing. Yes, it's not a lot of money, but like you compare that to say PlayStation 5 with the Astro Bot Playroom, which
Mhm.
was basically sort of running down all the features of your PlayStation 5, which was free on the system. And similarly, I think Wii Sports when it came out was free, and there was a story that I remember seeing of how Reggie Fils-Aimé, my body is ready.
The man himself.
Yeah, no Mother 3. um, he had to convince Nintendo higher ups of, hey, let them release Wii Sports for free because they need to let the consumer understand how the Wii works. Wii Sports was a perfect fit for that. You know, that sort of, it kind of like, don't get me wrong, like Nintendo, for as much good as they've done as a company with all their games and like IPs and just how well they treated, I feel like their developers and stuff have always done at least one or two like kind of messed up things
Mhm.
every console generation, right? Like their treatment of emulation, that's never great. Um, just like I think they were the last bastions of free online multiplayer
Mhm.
until they also joined the party with the Nintendo Switch Online. People were kind of annoyed by that. Granted, it's way cheaper than PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold.
It is.
You know, like yeah, sure you don't get your free 2 games a month like Gold or PSN Plus have, but they I think they compensate with being able to play the old classic games from the
Mhm.
NES era and now all the way up to GameCube. You know, like again, there's like good things to talk about this Nintendo Switch 2. There's a lot of cool, interesting things that it's going to be doing. I mean, heck, the fact that the Joy Cons, they're magnetic, so that's
Mhm.
kind of cool, and also you can turn them into like mouses for like games. Like you can do that for Metroid Prime 4, where instead of just using the regular control, you can just turn it into like a mouse,
It's
like a PC shooter.
it's almost crazy how that happened. Like that's what I was thinking too. Like
Like that's one of those things of like only Nintendo thinks of shit like this, right?
yeah.
Like only Nintendo has the balls to 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 do these kinds of weird things and be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Because to be fair, you can plug a mouse and a keyboard into like an Xbox. I'm pretty sure, but it's always sort of been like,
But why though?
why though? Like it feels a bit
Keyboard warriors, why?
yeah, it feels cumbersome,
Yeah.
right? But with the Switch, it's like this Joy-Con, your little controller that one can be like its own little tiny controller. You can
Yeah.
also turn it into a mouse, and it's like, and it didn't even dawn on me because they announced Civilization 7. Which,
Mm.
I'm a big fan of Civilization games. I haven't bought 7 yet, but I'm kind of just waiting to see how it looks so far. But just like, holy crap, the mouse feature, you can play it like you're playing on a friggin' computer.
Well, yeah.
Because again, because those games are like strategy games, and they're like all these options. And I think I remember buying Civilization 6 on the Switch,
Mm-hmm.
just to have fun with it. And I just always felt like it was less intuitive than if I was playing it on my laptop.
And now they did the.
Now you have a mouse option to move and click on stuff probably, and it's just like, that's kind of cool. Like, listen, don't get me wrong. People obviously are bringing up, don't buy a Nintendo Switch 2, buy a Steam Deck. It's way cheaper, and you'll get more games, blah, 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 right? And it's like, yeah, but...
If you have Steam, you want it on PC.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing, right? Like, not all games that you own on Steam will probably work well on your Steam Deck. And that's for, like, people who are already well versed with their PCs.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things of, like, honestly, like, it's one of the things where, like, not many people would need it. Same thing goes with, I honestly kind of forgot that PlayStation 5 has their own little Nintendo Switch knockoff. I forget what it's called. Isn't it like,
I don't remember.
but pretty much you need your PlayStation 5 to connect to it, right? It's not the same as a Nintendo Switch, right? You can't just take that thing, go outside, go to like a friggin' like 10 miles away and still play it. You still need like a connection, right?
Yeah.
To that console. Switch doesn't need that. The main thing is that Nintendo Switch has the concept down, and this one, Nintendo Switch 2, is just amplifying it up to, I think, its potential.
Mm.
And it sucks because, again, it comes with all this controversy about pricing. Whether it's the console itself, whether it's the games, whether it's the fact that, real world stuff is happening, and now maybe that console that seems slightly okay in pricing, but you're annoyed about the game pricing, now that console might go up, depending on how things shake out in, like, who knows how long, right? And it's just sort of like, it's like,
It's so a fantastic, innovative thing. The thing that we know Nintendo to be, that's kind of at this moment where there's a lot of uncertainty coming out. That's a real issue with it, because like you just went on I feel like a few minute, I wouldn't say call it tangent, because you're right. That is an impressive thing, that the fact that they're even thinking about making it feel like a PC, when even the Steam Deck or whatever Sony has doesn't even give you that feeling, but Nintendo does, because that's kind of what they do. Remember, like the Wii came out, and that was crazy.
nobody, like, yeah, because, yeah, like, you're going to say, like, nobody really thought motion controls were a thing. Like, they just saw it as a gimmick, but the Wii is, like, one of the most best-selling consoles of all time, because people really vibe with it.
And then Sony and Xbox try to copy it in the worst way possible.
Yeah, I mean, you had this, like, what is it, PlayStation Move, if I recall correctly?
And then Connect.
Which, I mean, granted, Connect itself was not a bad concept. In
No.
fact, I think it might have been more innovative than the Wii's, like, motion controls.
Yeah.
However,
It was a blessing in disguise, because a lot of people didn't like it, but there's been people who found out a way how to use it still.
I mean, yeah, because I was gonna say, like, it was a bit half baked. Nintendo, when the Xbox One came out,
Right.
it came out with a new version of Kinect, which was better. But at that point, Xbox kind of gave up on their motion games and stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, realistically, the only cool thing I remember doing with the Kinect was just being pulling like a Hey Siri thing with it, like, hey Xbox, turn on, or like it would automatically sign me in because the camera would recognize my face, which now in hindsight,
Kind of scary.
a little scary. But then again, your iPhone can do the same thing, so now, and I use that all the time now, so it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, but like to the point is that
yeah,
you know Nintendo is usually the one that really comes up with something new and usually is very much about for the experience. It's kind of like their motto essentially. But we're kind of stuck in it. The sad thing is we're in a situation we're in a time period where everything is kind of affecting us even to the smallest minute detail that it's kind of hard not to ignore. Like I said, the pricing situation. It's crazy that this is going on like right now, like literally a day after the announcement.
yeah. Like obviously, you know, I think Nintendo hoped that you
A
know,
lot of people hope that it wouldn't go down certain ways, but kind of the way things are going. Again, like not trying to like put all my horses in like a bad stable. I don't know what kind of I don't know what
put
kind
your
of
all. I guess a better way of saying it would be not putting all your eggs in one basket.
exactly.
Okay.
But like we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully they'll pull out something that makes it good for everybody. But we can't deny that. Like I said, just this is something that's going on in the world. It's affecting everyone. It's hard for us not to mention it, especially in a thing that we love to talk about.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, interesting few months, years. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. You know, like I will say this. I'm still optimistic about the Nintendo Switch 2. I would really like to buy it.
Mhm.
Um, I think it. I personally was down with most of that stuff. But at the same time, it kind of sucks because now I'm like, well, 450. I thought 450, 500. That's not too bad, right? That's
Mhm.
that not at least it's not. It's kind of in my budget, but who knows?
Who knows what the rest is gonna go.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm gonna end it on a positive note, not Bloodborne 2. Not Bloodborne 2.
Right, the new From Software game. I forget the name of it. It was like Night something.
Yeah, but it's basically like a multiplayer game, as it turns out. Exclusively
Yeah,
only to Switch.
yeah.
That's crazy.
And a lot of people were just like Bloodborne 2 because they didn't.
Bloodborne 2.
Yeah.
Uh,
I will also say, I mean, new Kirby Air Riders
oh
game.
hell
That's kind of cool, right?
yeah.
Um,
But yeah.
yeah. I mean, all I said. I mean,
Well, it's a wait and see.
realistically, let's be honest with ourselves here. No one's gonna be complaining about the price once they announce the new Smash, because at that point it's like, well, damn it, now I have to buy this thing.
Yeah, somehow the Smash Brothers is
It's
always
either that or by the grace of God Himself.
Mother 3.
No, not Mother 3. I'm sorry, Mother fans. I'm sorry. I'm talking about a bigger game. A game that would totally get everybody on Nintendo's side again. And that game is Smash, but it's not Smash 5. It's Melee.
Okay, we're not doing.
Melee coming back via the GameCube Virtual Console thing, you know, and you can choose where you can play the US or PAL version. Like that only is specific to competitive Melee players. But main point being, somehow Nintendo does something right for the Melee competitive community.
I can see that.
All right, I think that's it. We're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I guess it's done. If you enjoy anything you've heard today, be sure to follow us on all social media. Subscribe Facebook and Twitter. Most on Instagram. There's also a link tree on Instagram for all you guys out there who want to put a face to the voice. Because we will be linked to the YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and Patreon for Reformer Sport. We'll see how things go out, but we're hopeful. And yeah, to me, boy, like,
Me, Joe.
guess have a good one, peace.